Social Security Administration disgrace of DEI subsidies in the federal government. The USA UN representative reads the Riot Act to the UN. This is Dr. David D. Schein for Saving America with my take on key stories from this week. And with Trump in the White House, there is no shortage of timely stories. Social Security rolls show 18.9 million people over 100 who have not been removed from the rolls. Now, this could be an exciting report on a dramatic increase in American lifespans. Unfortunately, there are only about 86,000 people who are 100 or over. And I question the number given the decrease in the American lifespans over the last few years. In fact, 12 million people in the Social Security database of eligible benefit recipients are listed as being over the age of 120. The oldest person in the world reportedly is 116 in Japan. The oldest person in the United States is 114. It's important to note that this does not mean that these people are all getting benefits. Most are not. But it makes good press coverage for Musk and Doge. It is reported that Social Security data has more than 398 million people listed. Yet the U.S. Census Bureau estimates the national population to be roughly 341 million. Folks, that's a pretty good spread. And that, of course, introduces the risk of corruption. Part of the reports are that when grandma dies, the family conveniently forgets to tell the Social Security Administration and keeps collecting benefits for as long as possible. Of course, the allegations are that many dead Social Security numbers are being recycled and persons overseas are collecting benefits. Let's see what shakes out. Reports say that Trump gave Musk's team until July 4, 2026 to achieve its goal of a $2 trillion reduction in the federal spending. That's before that organization is dissolved. I have a feeling that is going to continue after July 4th of next year. In related news, 75,000 federal workers accepted the administration's buyout offer by the deadline of February 12th, allowing them to continue collecting full pay and benefits through September 30th of this year as they seek alternative employment. As I said previously, I oppose the way this layoff system was done. There are also pending court cases challenging the whole program. That varies from week to week. Last I heard, courts are tending to allow it. There's been a controversy about giving Musk access to sensitive information. However, a federal judge in D.C. just ruled that the lawsuit by the Dem-controlled states trying to stop Musk's access to sensitive data has been rejected. There are still many suits pending, but the trend seems to be in favor of Trump. There are reports of large-scale layoffs. I'm not sure about this since civil service in the U.S. tends to be similar to state employees in Europe. Hard to fire them after they start. The group that seems to have the lowest chance of staying employed are all the remaining Biden-era U.S. attorneys. Trump wants the Department of Justice to terminate all of them for being, quote, politicized like never before, and I tend to agree with that commentary. Something that I strongly support is the end of DEI subsidies in the federal government. I don't know about you, but the numbers spent on this racist nonsense are stunning. A recent Doge report was that the Education Department alone had at least $373 million in DEI grants. Keep in mind, I strongly support diversity, but is diversity based on merit, not discrimination in favor of this week's whack liberal causes. And it gets better, folks. A recent article by Tyler O'Neill in the Daily Signal based on White House documents includes a list of taxpayer abuse. Department of Defense, $2.3 million for virtual reality DEI avatar for training at the Air University at Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama. How about $36,126 for U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services for DEI training? And the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office paid $2.86 million for a public relations firm contract for the Council on Inclusive Innovation. Taxpayers being robbed by the U.S. Forest Service in the amount of $35,338 for Sri Lankan Climate Change Mitigation, Adaptation, and Resilience Coordinator Services. Folks, I have 3 graduate degrees. I'm not actually sure what that means, but I think it means taxpayers are being screwed out of $35,000. Then the U.S. Department of Labor paid $4.1 million for a diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility consultation services and training for a Job Corps program. There's also been a lot of publicity regarding DOGE and the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, which has promoted DEI overseas in conjunction with whack charities under the wing of anti-American George Soros. The Daily Signal article mentions that taxpayer abuse reaches at least $4.2 billion in just one example. Some have especially criticized the attack on USAID due to the original concept of buying friends around the world by helping with health, food, and other related positive things. If USAID stayed with that objective, the current criticism would not be happening. How about this, folks? $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia. $47,000 for a transgender opera in the country of Colombia. $20 million for an Arabic translation of Sesame Street. And of course, $2 million for promoting sex changes in Guatemala. Now, what about reciprocal tariffs? Trump has been all over the map on tariffs. That has garnered criticism from both sides of the aisle. The random tariffs on Mexico and Canada, since suspended, are an apt example. I strongly support tariffs on China based on general principles. With regard to Russia, Iran, and North Korea, I don't know that we really buy anything other than maybe a little bit of vodka from Russia, and we've got awfully good vodka being made in the United States, including right here near to Houston, Texas, where we are. On the other hand, we're being ripped off by friendly countries. America has been the biggest sucker for decades, so I strongly support reciprocal tariffs. We might find this helps to restore some sanity to world markets. As an example, I heard that we charge 2.4% tariff on motorcycles from India, but they have 100% tariff on USA motorcycles. Europe charges high tariffs on US vehicles, while we charge a fraction of that on European autos. This gives their autos a huge advantage on both sides of the Atlantic. Let's watch for what happens here. I expect the USA to come out for better in the long term. There could be some temporary supply disruptions or higher prices. Let's see how it goes. The USA UN rep reads the riot act to the whole UN. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Trump announced withdrawal from UN human rights body and halt to funding for Palestinian refugees. This is the organization known as UNRWA, which received a lot of attention after Israel discovered that some UNRWA staff were personally involved in the atrocities of October 7, 2023, in those attacks in southern Israel. I believe that funding was already suspended, but Trump has terminated U.S. involvement completely now. Trump also issued an executive order calling for review of American involvement in the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, known as UNESCO, and a review of U.S. funding for the United Nations in light of the wild disparities in levels of funding among different countries. The United States, with the world's largest economy, pays 22% of the UN's regular operating budget, far in excess of our percentage of the world economy. I happened to catch a presentation by Ambassador Dorothy Shea on February 18th, and I was proud to hear her explain clearly why America was cutting back on its support of the UN. She emphasized the anti-Israel lean of the UN over the last few years and that it is unacceptable. This is in addition to agencies that are not keeping with American principles. Importantly, she mentioned the ridiculous situation where China, the second largest economy in the world, is still being treated as a developing nation. She also mentioned the abuse of international structures for political ends, including the International Court of Justice, ICJ, which issues advisory opinions as a way to pursue national agendas. The ICJ has been used by South Africa to accuse Israel of genocide. Unfortunately, the term genocide has been misappropriated to become an international slander. She also stated the following: we need to harness the power of artificial intelligence, but we must guard against strangling the development of AI with needless regulations. We must also be wary of attempts to use AI algorithms to rewrite history, surveil users, and censor speech. This is how America presents itself on the world stage now, and this makes a lot of sense to yours truly. Russia and Ukraine, what's the plan? While I think Trump is off to a pretty good start in his first month, the Russian invasion of Ukraine is not looking like a Trump success. He spoke with Putin and even talked about visiting each other's country. I spoke about this last week and opposed that. Then I heard reps from both countries would meet in Saudi Arabia. Well, maybe that is good, but Zelensky then pops up and wants to know where is his seat at the table. That's a darn good question, folks. Trump added insult to injury by then referring to Zelensky as a dictator without elections. I caution Trump that Zelensky has a 57% approval rating in his own country. Trump makes it sound like Ukraine invaded Russia when nothing could be further from the truth. I do agree that Biden squandered our tax dollars in its failed support of Ukraine, but the solution is not to surrender to Russia after Ukrainian people have suffered so much and fought so hard. Notice, Russia claims it wants to have a better relationship with the United States, and it sent 167 drones to attack Ukraine the next night. This is not going to end well if Russia does not behave itself, and Trump needs to let them know that in no uncertain terms. Certainly, Europe should be putting more into the defense of this allied neighboring country than the USA, but that was under Biden. There's a smarter path forward, in my opinion. This is very much a questionable early stumble of the Trump foreign policy. Let's see how it goes. Why a rash of plane crashes as fares hit record levels? As someone who flies frequently, I'm now worried about the safety of flying in the United States. This is not related to Trump's cuts to the FAA and other agencies. Frankly, the DC swamp is a boondoggle. Time for deep cuts. At the same time, this in no way impacts who is in the control towers around the USA. The new Trump administration claimed that the country is short on air traffic controllers by as much as 1,000 due to a DEI approach under Biden. Well, for whatever the reason, time to make sure our control towers are fully staffed or send the planes to control towers of airports that are staffed. This happens at a time when I've never seen air travel so expensive. So, more costly and less safe. What a lousy combination. An uneasy truce in the Middle East. War almost resumed. The terrorists in Gaza paused the return of hostages a few days ago. Trump threatened them and they began to comply again with the current truce. In an incredible documentation of the atrocities of Hamas, they returned 4 dead hostage bodies, little children and their mother. These terrorists deserve no quarter. They must be exterminated like the cockroaches that they are. And any person who can still claim to support Hamas or Gaza after seeing the dead bodies of little babies and their mothers should be in the insane asylums. This is not freedom of speech. That's depravity. Scientists identify where city-destroying asteroid might hit Earth. Hey, maybe the politicians are hoping for this to solve the Social Security crisis they created. Timing's pretty good. They said SSA is going to run out of money in 2030, and this is going to hit in 2032. Oh my goodness. Scientists have identified a potentially dangerous asteroid. They've named it 2024 YR4. Experts say it has a 2.3% chance of striking Earth in December 2032. The asteroid discovered in December 2024 measures between 130 and 300 feet in diameter, and according to an article I read, makes it larger than the Statue of Liberty. If it actually hits Earth, it could cause damage equivalent to a huge atomic bomb. So we do need to pay attention to this. Unfortunately, it reminds me of the 1998 Bruce Willis movie, Armageddon. I'm not sure how this is determined, but one expert says it could hit anywhere from northern South America across the Atlantic Ocean to sub-Saharan Africa. Hey, folks, hey, it's 7 years off. Yeah, I have a feeling that might be adjusted. Now, maybe there is a realistic solution where they do send rockets up and redirect it at the last minute to keep it away from Earth. So we'll have to see how that goes. This is Dr. David D. Schein. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Saving America. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform. Remember, we always welcome comments from our growing audience. You can contact us at ClaremontManagementGroup.com.